for wearing a respirator. And she's like, okay, but let's make me a character, and she wanted to be a pilot. So we had to sit down and think, what is it that a pilot would have on an airship? Well, I went to a pilot and said, so what is it that you need? He's like, instruments. I need to fly the plane, and I can't do it visually. And I'm like, all right, so what instruments do you have on a plane? And he went through the instruments and said, well, there's the artificial horizon. I got something here to tell me the altitude. I've got
altimeter.
Something to tell me the temperature so I can figure out air mass. I've got airspeed indicator. I've got to figure out time, so I've got to have a clock so I can figure out where I am by how far I've traveled. I'm like, all right. And I thought about it. I'm like, you know what? They make all that stuff that's completely atmospheric. There's nothing that's on a modern plane that needs to be digital. They used to have all this stuff on planes that was atmospheric. So I went out and I looked, and I found a thermometer, a hydrometer, a chronometer, a barometric altimeter, and a compass setup that actually you can determine your azimuth with, because it's also a sundial. So with this piece of equipment that you wear on your arm, you actually have, and the artificial horizon, you actually have everything that you have on a modern airplane except for an airspeed indicator, which I figured out how to do. I just haven't figured out where to put it. It's a bit small. But with this, you have a functional piece. I've actually given these to a few balloon people and said, hey, what do you think of this? She's like, this is awesome. I can figure out my envelope pressure with this using the thermometer and hydrometer, and I can figure out my altitude, and I can figure out what my rate of ascension is. I would have had to have like a laptop computer program to do this, but now I can do it with math. He prefers the laptop still, but it is a neat piece, and it's fully functional. If anyone wants to come up and get a closer look at it, they're welcome to. So back to Q&A. Who has questions? Yeah?
I told you about my character, the teen cowboy. What type of clothing did I kind of wear?
Well, with clothing, I think it's more a matter of taste. If you want to go singing cowboy, I would look at traditional singing cowboys and culture. Go look at Gene Autry. Go look at Roy Wilder. Pick up on those clothing and try to jump back. Actually, look back at history and try to figure out what it is that you're looking for. There were singing entertainers back in the day, and I would give it back, are you? Yeah. And I would go to that stock material. Put in singing cowboy on the internet and see what you pick up. You might find yeah, all that stuff. It's got an LED in it, and you'll find something that gives you something that you want to work with. Who else has a question? Does anyone have a character that they'd like to work on, to take apart, try to figure out things? Yeah.
Alright, so I was
speak up so the whole room can hear you.
Yesterday or Friday when I saw the Steampunk, I decided to make my own Steampunk character, and I was looking at some of the Steampunk stuff they had, and was trying to figure out what I would be interested in. I decided to make an explorer.
Okay.
And I showed you the water bottle earlier.
Right.
And I want to get like a compass and a telescope, but I'm not sure like base clothing what I should get for that.
Basically a level.
Well, if you're going to go explorer with your costume, you want to think about what it is that check historical documents.
Okay.
There were explorers
So you know where the horizon
1800s,
level is.
and those basic costume, those basic equipment that they use should be
Oh,
your
it's ornamental
guide
leather.
for what you're going to use.
Shiny.
If you're going to be exploring the deepest, darkest part of Africa, you look at the people that were exploring from Britain at that time. Although, if they were French, they would have a different look. You have to figure out what race you want to be, what area of the world that you want to hail from, and what area of the world that you say you want to go to. And that will pull together your costume. Are you going to be exploring China? Are you going to be exploring Africa? The West? What country are you going to be from? Are you going to be British? Are you going to go with the pit helmet? Are you going to go with khakis and Dr. Livingstone look? Are you going to go with French Foreign Legion, looking for resources for a war effort? Are you going to go with more the Marco Polo thing, going to the Orient, picking up Oriental-like clothing, and saying that you're from that you're part of the Boxer Rebellion issues and wearing the suit and tie? Because the climate that you're going to,
Australian outback?
Yeah, that's another great thing. You can go with the curved hat, and you'll pick up things from the heritage of that area. Because remember, if you're an explorer, you're going to be interacting with the Aboriginal and indigenous peoples of those areas, and that's going to be something that you're going to want to bring into your costume. So you can say, well, I'm an Aussie, I'm doing this, mate, I'm doing, and that's going to really guide you. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
And also, have a reason for your explorations. If you're going to be in Australia, are you looking for opals? Are you looking for uranium? Because Australia has large uranium deposits. Bring that into it, and if you're looking for uranium, have a device that looks like a Geiger counter. Set it up so it clicks. Have the wand and things like that. Say that I'm looking for rare materials, and build on that. And that'll give you a much stronger character and much more believable. And people will, you can have a shtick when you're walking around town looking for things. You can have it so that you can, if you have your uranium meter, that you go up to somebody with a glowing arm and click the switch so it starts the needles all jumping up and down.
Also, I know it's supposed to be like, 1880s roughly era. But then I've also seen some steampunk that's, fairly futuristic as.
Well, that's getting into different things. There's a variety of different punk subgenres. There's steampunk, which is primarily from 1790 to 1910, would fall into that area. 1910 to 1960 is considered diesel punk, and that would be the Pulp Fiction of like Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow. You also have what's called clock punk, which is what I'm leaning more towards, which is more the 1700s to 1600s with mechanized things, less steam driven, more driven by hydraulics, pumps, and clockwork mechanisms.
It goes earlier than that. It goes Renaissance to medieval.
Well, I was going to jump. Yeah.
Methodology, so.
And there is a lot of that.
What I mean is, for instance, your cane, says the photon accelerator or something
right.
or other. Clearly not 1800s.
Well,
and
that's.
I was just wondering, what's the boundaries that are still acceptable within genre, but still looking for that.
To be honest, it's more 1600s. Leonardo da Vinci did a lot of work with prism work and actually developed the first laser that earlier by using the first documented cutting items with light by using large reflectors and prisms that he built. And as a matter of fact, as far as back as the city of Alexandria in ancient Egypt, they were using light as a weapon. Supposedly the lighthouse of Alexandria had a great lens that was capable of burying a ship something like 2 leagues away at sea. Now, Mythbusters tried to rebuild that item and got the rigging on a ship to burst into flame at almost 500 yards using a Fresnel lens and a reflector. So if we said that this was some type of acetylene-driven prism that emitted light, then yeah, it would go into it. You want to bend the science behind what your story is to meet what your character is. Because remember, this is science fiction. It doesn't have to be real. We can make it up.
So I guess it's something that the concepts were around at the time. It's just
That's right.
innovative for what the time would have been.
That's what you're looking for. You want to be innovative for what the time would have been. You want to take modern technology and figure out how to frame it inside of a Victorian edifice. Next question. Does anyone else have a character that they're working on or a concept that they'd like to kind of chew through?
You don't mind if you don't.
Okay. What's your concept?
Blacksmith, anthro, of course.
Right.
We were talking about the exoskeleton for the arm earlier.
Mm-hmm. Now, he said that he wanted to combine Native American stuff with blacksmithing, so he's going like kind of a Wild West steampunk thing. And if you guys saw him over the weekend, he had like Native American buckskin shirt, but instead of having your traditional Native American symbolism for art on it, he actually has mathematical equations written all over it.